Nah, this ain't nonsense, this is nonfiction. So excuse if the content is offensive, it's official. Now that we have been acquainted, this is my pleasure, my pain, your entertainment.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Nonpfixion back at you one more time with a brand new reaction. Excuse me. And you can see the title. So the reaction is for Hawkeye episode 5, ending explained and breakdown, final theories, Daredevil, Kingpin, Echo, and this is coming from the Cosmic Wonder, Warren at the Cosmic Wonder, who does great work on YouTube. If you're not familiar with his work, once you check out this video, I'll have a link in the description. Please give him a subscription, give him a subscribe. He is currently at 857,000 subscribers. They have great content over there. And they're currently doing giveaways until the end of the year for all kinds of things that's Marvel. Marvel, I think, and Star Wars. Pretty dope. So, let's get right into it. Once again, it's Hawkeye episode 5, ending explained, breakdown, final theories, Daredevil, Kingpin, Echo, blah. No, I was playing. But if you're caught up by now, if you've been watching all the episodes so far, you know, and I know, the episode ended with a heck of a bang. And if you've watched Spider-Man No Way Home, there's an interesting tie-in. And I now understand why they saved Kingpin for this episode. So, let's get it in. Once again, this is the Cosmic Wonder, Warren.
How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. And if you're here, you probably watched Hawkeye Episode 5. And if you didn't, I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler warning because I want to jump right into this. Kingpin is finally in the MCU. And the best part is it's Vinny D. It's Vincent D'Onofrio. He is back reprising his role as Kingpin. Now, right off the bat, I don't think this is going to be the same character from the Netflix series. Yes, it's Kingpin. Yes, it's D'Onofrio. But I doubt they're keeping the stories from the Netflix series in the MCU. Those aren't canon. It seemed like Kevin Feige pretty much made that clear, so they're basically going to reboot the character, but keep the same actor that played him. And Kevin Feige recently mentioned this about Daredevil. He said that if and when Daredevil does come to the MCU, Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox would indeed be playing him. And since he said that, and since Kingpin is now in the MCU and we are getting an Echo series, I'm assuming Daredevil is not too far behind, so be excited about that as well. But let's break down this ending and what exactly is going on in the Hawkeye series and what we can expect from the finale next week. And also, my giveaway is still going on. We've chosen about 12 winners so far, still a ton of stuff to give away. So be sure to subscribe and check the pinned comment and description for your ways to enter. Now, as myself and many of you, pretty much everybody, suspected, Eleanor is indeed not exactly good. To start off, she has clearly framed Jack, unfortunately. In the beginning of the show, Jack was really made to kind of appear like a villain. However, they were pretty obvious and in your face about it, which usually means it's a distraction from what's actually going on, which we have now found out. Eleanor is actually working for Kingpin, or with him. And just as I suspected from the last episode, Jack has no idea about Sloan. As he stated in this episode, he's never heard of that company, and he makes a joke, even though it is actually very serious, stating that he's never worked a day in his life because he was kind of born into money. Now, the only reason this happens is because Kate tells her mother that her and Hawkeye figured this out. So Eleanor...
But what if it's all a ruse and he's just playing the role that he's supposed to play, and he's lying?
Who is most likely Madame Mask, which we'll talk about in a bit, knows that Hawkeye is going to be gunning for her. So what does she do? She goes ahead and calls the cops on Jack, who unfortunately is indeed a patsy, like I talked about in my last breakdown, and is simply a person who is kind of love blind right now with Eleanor. So unfortunately, he takes the fall for Eleanor, and he doesn't know it's Eleanor. Meanwhile, Yelena gives Kate a visit. She goes to her old apartment where Yelena is waiting for her, and they have what Yelena calls a girls' night. Yelena, of course, knows that Kate Bishop isn't a bad person. She believes in Hawkeye, but Yelena thinks that Hawkeye is bad. She believes that he is responsible for the death of her sister. This is most likely due to Val, who was introduced in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and in the post-credit scene of Black Widow, telling Yelena that Clint was responsible for the death of Natasha. Now, Yelena seems pretty set in her ways, but Kate does seemingly convince her that maybe there is more to Hawkeye than she actually knows. Maybe Hawkeye actually is a good person who cared for Natasha. Kate says you need to do some research looking into who hired you to take out Hawkeye, which again, we'll talk about in just a bit. But the final piece to the puzzle of this ending that you need to know is what happens with Clint and Maya. Clint visits the Avengers Shrine, where he goes and takes his earpiece out so he can have silence and talk to Natasha. You can tell that her death still haunts him, as he tried himself to be the one that would be sacrificed for the Soul Stone, but in the end it was her, and he still is haunted by it. But the last thing he does before he leaves the shrine is apologize to her. And in this scene with Maya and Clint, it becomes very clear what he is apologizing for. He is apologizing for becoming Ronin again. He was Ronin during the 5-year gap where he went on a killing spree. Granted, he was killing bad people, but a killing spree nonetheless. But Natasha came and found him and pulled him out of it. He was Ronin no more because of her, so he apologizes to her for becoming Ronin again. Now, as Ronin, he visits Maya, and he takes out everybody, so it's just her and him. And here's where he drops a really big bomb on Maya. Now, after defeating her, he shows his face to her, so she realizes that it's Hawkeye, it's the Avenger, and he quickly says that if you come after me again, or my family, it'll be the last thing you do. Obviously, because he'll kill her. Then he says that you and I, we're the same. She says, no, you are a monster. Speaking of what he did as Ronin, specifically about him killing her dad. However, I'm still not so sure he did, which I'll talk about. Clint says we're both weapons, but when we're filled with rage, we're blind. And here's where we kind of start to see the story all come together. Clint says that this rage makes you blind, which means you can be used and manipulated. And this is where Clint drops the bomb. He says, I was there that night, tipped off by an informant who works for your boss. He says your boss wanted your father dead. Now he's using you. Now, of course, Maya doesn't believe him, or she doesn't want to believe him. But now it's all actually lining up with the comic storyline pretty accurately.
Yes,
and this is where we'll connect everything. Maya meets back up with Kazi and asks him a very important question. Why wasn't he there that night when everybody else is? He doesn't really have an answer. He says, I don't know, I just didn't get the call. But my theory is that he might have been dressed up as Ronin. Now, I acknowledge this could be wrong. Hawkeye was in a rough time and he was taking out bad people, and technically the Tracksuit Mafia are bad people. So Hawkeye still could very well be the person that killed Maya's father, but where was Kazi? Now, it could be that Kingpin just didn't want him there so he wouldn't die. That, of course, makes sense. But I'm wondering if Kazi is the one who killed Maya's father. In the comics, he is very, very ruthless, and he's kind of the main one that Hawkeye fights against, which isn't really what we're seeing here, but of course, we'll wait and see. But Hawkeye actually does convince Maya that something's going on, which is why she asked Kazi where he was. And based off of how she leaves, she clearly understands that things aren't as they seem. Now, her boss is obviously Kingpin. This is revealed when Yelena sends Kate Bishop a text message. She actually took her advice and tracked down who hired her, and as it turns out, it was Eleanor Bishop, Kate's mother. So here's what happened, and this is kind of the big picture. In the photo that Yelena sends, we see Eleanor with Kingpin. Hawkeye confirms that's who I was worried about. He was worried about him because obviously he has dealt with him in the past. Obviously Ronin has dealt with him and took out a lot of the Tracksuit Mafia. Now Eleanor is clearly one of the bad guys. And she is most likely Madame Mask, who works with Kingpin in the comics. Kingpin is in charge of the Tracksuit Mafia. He is their boss, and he's Kazi's boss. This is straight from the comics as well. Kingpin employs the Tracksuit Mafia, he employs Kazi, and he also looks after Echo after her father dies in the comics. But in the comics, Kingpin is actually the one that kills her father. Now, eventually, she figures this out with the help of Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Obviously, that part's not going to be the same here. Hawkeye is really the one that is showing her that her boss Kingpin is actually a bad guy, and it looks like he is responsible for her father's death. So everything is really coming together here. Now, Eleanor clearly realized that Hawkeye was going to be a problem because Hawkeye and her daughter Kate were looking into some things that they shouldn't be looking into, like the Sloan Company, that's under Jack's name, that does money laundering for the Tracksuit Mafia, which Kingpin is in charge of. So Eleanor calls Kingpin, and what do they decide to do? Hire a Black Widow assassin to take out Hawkeye before Hawkeye gets in the middle of all of their business. Now, it's unclear on whether or not Kingpin knows that Hawkeye is Ronin. It's irrelevant because Kingpin would want to kill Hawkeye for meddling anyways. And maybe he even likes Ronin. He said he was tipped off by an informant, and he said that your boss wanted your dad dead. So was the informant the boss, Kingpin, or was the informant Kazi? That's going to be what's revealed in the final episode. Now, keep in mind that we're going to be going into the Echo series. And Kingpin will indeed be in the Echo series, and reportedly, Daredevil will be as well. So there are some things that aren't going to be really wrapped up here, but hopefully they have a really, really good ending. I'm worried that there actually is so much to wrap up that we're going to be left on a cliffhanger for some. But pretty much that's what's going on. Eleanor and Kingpin are working together. They control the Tracksuit Mafia. Eleanor is probably Madam Mask. They hired a Black Widow assassin to kill Hawkeye because Hawkeye is meddling. Val, when she gave Yelena the job, lied to her and told her that Hawkeye was responsible for her sister's death, which isn't completely untrue, but it is a wide stretch of the truth. And Yelena will most likely realize this and eventually help Hawkeye and Kate. Now, the only thing that we really don't know about yet is the watch. Who does the Rolex belong to? Does it belong to Laura? And who is she? Is she Mockingbird, a former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Did she work for Kingpin before? We don't know that yet, but of course, that should be revealed in next week's episode, but we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, let me know what you thought about this episode of Hawkeye. Rate it 1 out of 10 down below. And of course, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe for more Marvel content. And as always, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter for live updates. And of course, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.
Woof woof. All right. So I was actually thinking about that too when everything was happening in the episode. I was thinking, who does the watch belong to? And if it belongs to wifey, is she Mockingbird? Is she just retired because she had kids? Or she wanted to get out the business? Because it'd be a cool twist, and you'd be like, damn, we had Mockingbird in the MCU this whole time, didn't know it. Or does it belong to actually somebody else that he's trying to protect? And does that mean we're getting a look at another hero or a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that that's supposed to be staying quiet? That's the question. Now, I love the twist at the end, and kind of based off what Warren was saying. Well, not based, but kind of like what Warren's saying. There's so much going on, and the length of the episodes, I don't know if they're going to be able to tie everything in, or at least do it to the point where it's given enough at the end where we feel like we've been fed. You know what I'm saying? Because each episode, like I said, each episode of the movie is like a buffet. And by the time when you get to the end, you should feel like you've been fed, and you should feel full and satisfied. You know what I'm saying? And not really wanting more. You shouldn't want anything else. And I'm wondering if it's too much because you got to deal with fully revealing Kingpin, revealing the mom as Madame Mask, possibly Jack as a swordsman. Yelena comes to her truth about what happened to her sister. Hawkeye protects whoever the watch belongs to. Kate fully becomes the next Hawkeye. I mean, Kazi comes out with his truth if he was in the suit, or if he's the person that killed her father. I mean, what else we got? Will there be a nod to Daredevil, an actual nod to Daredevil, unlike what we just seen, you know what I'm saying, this past weekend? If you've seen Spider-Man, holla at your boy. Just holla at your boy. I don't want to know. But there's definitely a lot of loose ends. So I'm hoping that we can get it tied up and wrapped up in a cute little bow. And of course, certain things are going to be left open because it's going to lead into the Echo series. And that's probably why they decided to go into the Echo series so early in the development of the Hawkeye series. They were like, how are we going to tie this up in this last episode? Oh, well, we already got to keep people under contract. Let's extend the contract for another 7 episodes and take it there. Because then we can really go into Kingpin, Daredevil, Echo, and whoever else they're going to bring into that series. And then branch out even more. Okay, now we're going to go into the Daredevil episode series. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I know people have complained about this series. People have complained about all the TV shows and complained about What If. Like, it's a cartoon. Yeah, but it's canon. It is so canon that you need to watch it. If you have not watched it, you're gonna be so lost when you see things, because there's some things that happen. If there's some things that happen that will be happening that comes directly from the What If series. We're getting a whole show based off of something that happens in the What If series, and currently right now we're getting 2 characters getting introduced into the MCU. So if you're not paying attention and you're not watching that because it's a cartoon, when it gets to that point, you're gonna be like, "Who's that? And where they come from?" What if? What if was created after Loki and female Loki murked Kang? Once they did that, what if was the repercussions? And what's currently happening in the MCU via Spider-Man is major repercussions. If you haven't seen Spider-Man, please go see it. If you love Spider-Man, this is probably one of the better Spider-Man movies out there. I know everybody's going to have different point of views, different tier lists. I think I'm going to do a tier list in a couple days of my favorite Spider-Man movies, or do some watch-alongs. We'll figure it out. But thank you for being here. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, as well as notification bell. This series is actually really cool. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. Also, if you're here, this is your first time, something I like to do if people who watch the end, towards the end of the video, is show the video some love, put a yellow heart in the chat, and don't forget to go subscribe to the Cosmic Wonder and the Cosmic Culture. They're intertwined. Please go show them some love. They have great content. They're great people, and they're doing giveaways right now. You might get lucky and get something. I know there's so much. He has Miles Morales stuff. He has Spider-Man stuff. He has Stormtrooper stuff. He has Star Wars stuff. If he picks me, I want Stormbreaker. Like he said in the video that if he picks you and you pick it, they'll buy it. So there was a Stormbreaker, but somebody took it there in the video. I want Stormbreaker. I would love Stormbreaker. I don't know where the hell I'll put it. I mean, you'll see the handle right here. I'll just lean against the wall, like it'll be linked. And somebody asked me, I was just show them like, yeah, I got Stormbreaker, and then maybe I'll cosplay for the first time. Since I'm a big dude, the Fat Thor, but it'd be black. I'll do that. If he gets Stormbreaker, then I'll cosplay for the first time. It'll be interesting, but I'll do it. Anyways, hope you have a wonderful day, night, evening, morning, noon, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Nonpfixion. Hope you had a wonderful time here. I appreciate you. I love you. Spread love, not hate. Peace out, you guys. Peace. All right. Catch you on the next one. Peace out.